Welfare Jazz by Viagra Boys, 13 songs, 40 minutes long. And I really, this is one of those albums that just kind of came out of the blue for me, artists that came out of the blue for me. I just saw that a lot of people were talking about Viagra Boys earlier this year, and I was like, okay, I'll save that for when we have time on Audioface. And now we do. They had an album in 2018 called Streetworms that was released. And from what I can tell, their sound is... I don't like the phrase post-punk because punk is already such a loaded phrase. I think post-punk is just sort of like I don't know. But there's punk attitudes in this as sort of like we are who we are and fuck you for thinking otherwise and we're just going to do it. But there's definitely safely an alternative indie rock as well. The voice does this. He has one of those voices where some bands do this, where the lead singer's voice is almost overly cinematic when they're talking about things, but it actually isn't. It kind of works out.
It works. It's just one of the rare cases where the vocals actually really work within the musicality of all of their songs, because it's not like AWOL Nation or something where it's so overly blatant in your ears where you're like, this is horrendous. This is actually trying to make an art with it.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult to do because, you can make it the AWOL Nation style of just overblowing, or you can do it where it's fantastic. And this is an album that it took me a couple listens to get into because there's a lot in here. There's a lot of like spoken parts, just a lot of little breakers in between to kind of like tell a story within the album and everything too. That it's a lot, but once you dive into it and get to kind of know within the music, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Ain't Nice, you kind of begin with there are aspects of this that are punky in the same way that Gorillaz' first album was very punky. It was just like kind of off the wall. It was a little bit like glitchy, kind of new 2000s alternative bits.
Well, it reminded me of a little bit of Preoccupations album that came out a couple years ago, but a little bit more in your face.
Yeah. Because, let's see. It's not Toad, but I'm pretty sure it's... No, I'm still not coming on this. But there's one song that is... Oh, no, I know the song. It's at the end, and it's my favorite. But we'll go... And I'll just talk about it right now because I've done all this thing. Girls and Boys, which is near the end, feels like the best kind of attempt at what the sound is trying to get at, because it's closer to punk. It's just rock and faster. Literally, some of the lyrics are just like blah, 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 because he just wants to have fun with that. And I like the way it kind of all goes together in that way, because it reminds you of, especially not having been to a concert in a very long time, just like frontman stage energy, where like they're happy to be there, but also like couldn't be bothered to be there.
They love what they do, but also want to be at home in bed.
Yes. But yeah, the album goes through a lot of different sounds that way and a lot of different explorations, and the songs have different tones to them. Coldplay itself is really just sort of like a teaser song to get to Toad.
Yeah.
Which has... I do remember how Toad starts. It's kind of like this...
The spoken...
Yeah, like man and woman talking to each other about settling down, but no, this man has to be fiercely independent kind of things. And it becomes less of like a man versus woman thing because the lyrics kind of break down and do it in any other way. But that makes it... That gives it a lot of hints of indie, because of how many different turns this album takes.
Yeah, and then like after Toad, you have This Old Dog, not by Mac DeMarco. And it's just another like 30-second little breaker piece going into the Sun, which I really like Into the Sun, because this, again, reminded me of Preoccupations a little bit, because it's really slowed down, deconstructed, vocals really prevalent, but it's like, it never has like a crescendo or anything. It's just slowly marching, going around, and that's most of the track, and it has this beautiful guitar in the background, really stripped down, and it's great
This
track.
reminds me of there's a couple of B-sides to Gorillaz' album Demon Days, where the bassist used a distortion pedal to do all the sounds, and that's very much in here, and you get a similar kind of guitarish rock, like easy listening sound to that. Even the voice sounds like the raspy thing Damon was trying to do in We Are Happy Landfill. So I liked it for that sound as well. And then Creatures is another highlight of the album too as well.
Creatures dives more into the sound from Into the Sun. It still kind of like does a little spoken theme throughout the track, but then it's a little bit stripped back down still. And then you get to Six Shooter, which then picks up the pace, gets you more back into that like that more rocky style, and it's good. It's, again, there's a lot in this because after 6-shooter, you have Best in Show 2, which again is a little like 40-second breaker and stuff. So there's a lot within that. Even that Secret Canine Agent is only like, what, a 90-second track maybe or something like that? Yeah, minute 45 seconds. But I like it because it's like, it's so fast and quick and just like it goes off and it like combines a bunch of different sounds into one. And I like it too.
Yeah. I mean, like there are aspects of this album that sound like, I was trying to think of Metronomy, the English artist that we did a while ago. And there's some parts of it that sound like totally different parts of alternative music. And that it goes through these different parts in a relatively cohesive kind of way is pretty dope, actually. All the way down to 6-shooter through to Secret Canine Agent, which then gets to be like a faster drumline thing. Definitely falls within the name of the song.
And it's interesting because after Girls and Boys, which Dan already talked about earlier, you have the last 2 tracks, To the Country, In Spite of Ourselves. You get more into a normal vocal range. It's not muffled. There's not much distortion, everything. So it's interesting how it ends with those 2 tracks where it gets that more, a little bit slower down, more contemporary-ish pieces, but they're actually good in that regard because it's nice where you have a breakup. You have something a little bit different towards the end too because you don't want to be continuously up here. So there's just a lot of different things, a lot of different ideas into it, but they still made it cohesive.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult.
I like what they did with the last 2 songs. I don't know if I like the last 2 songs as they placed it in the album. Like, I respect what they did, but didn't, like, end the album properly. And it sucks. So I think they had a really good chance to end a really... cohesively
I like In Spite of Ourselves as the last track. I wish they put To the Country more in the middle to break it up, or even towards the beginning. I think that would have been nice, too. That's just something I would have changed as well. But In Spite of Ourselves, you have featuring Amy Taylor. Fantastic with female vocal onto it again too. So good album.
Yeah. I don't know if we did, or at least me, I don't know if I did the particularly best job of describing this album here, but more than a lot of albums we reviewed, this album gives you a lot to talk about. There's just so many different things going on. And at different times they're happening. There's just so much to dig into.
It can appeal to a wide variety of audience too, because there's going to be a lot of maybe indie heads like myself who will like this because sometimes I like rock, sometimes I don't. It just depends what mood I'm in. But within this is something that it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more on the nose. It's fast. It's slow. There's a lot of different sounds on there, and I can really appreciate for what it is, and I'll definitely like it. And there's going to be rock people that like this. There's going to be other people that like it just for the appreciation of it. So there's a lot of appeal to it.
Indie people will love it. It's really good. On the arbitrary scale, I'll give this the G90.
You're the G90? Yeah, I could feel it. I could feel it being the
Not
G90.
that it's the best or the biggest, but like anyone sits in a G90 and they're not going, oh, this is a Kia? Oh, this is a Hyundai?
Yeah, exactly. Be like, damn, this is better than a Maybach.
I hope that one of our, at this point, look at us, maybe 20 German listeners, is somehow connected to Daimler Mercedes up in Germany. And so like they can actually let someone who works at Mercedes-Benz in Germany hear us talk about how this South Korean car is way better than the Maybach, because it is.
Yep. Not a big Mercedes fan, so.